My car broke down, so I took my wife's Mercedes to pick her up from the gym. The guard handed me her bag and said, her husband left this for her. But that man wasn't me. Name's Derek Walsh, 55, born and baked under the Texas sun. Grew up thinking success was a cold beer, a paid-off truck, and a woman who didn't mind your snoring. I built houses for 30 years, first with my hands, then with other people's hands, and I sold the company last year for enough money to finally retire without worrying about the price of gas or shingles. These days, I spend my mornings on the porch with coffee, my afternoons pretending to fix things that aren't broken, and my nights convincing myself that peace isn't boring. It's just really, really quiet. Then there's Clara, my wife, 42 going on 25 if you believe Instagram. I call her my second act. We've been married 6 years, long enough for me to memorize all her moods and still not understand half of them. She's beautiful, smart, and smells like eucalyptus and debt. Every month, she finds new ways to make Amazon think we have triplets to feed. Still, I used to think we were balanced. She brought the sparkle, I brought the stability. She liked fancy dinners, I liked backyard BBQs. We met somewhere in the middle, usually Olive Garden. But lately, Clara's been on a wellness journey. That's her phrase. In my book, if you have to call something a journey, it's already expensive. She joined a new gym about 3 months ago, some place called Zen Forge. Don't ask me how that name makes sense. She wakes up at 6 every morning like she's training for the Olympics of running away from responsibility. 2 hours, cardio and yoga. She chirps, slipping into those neon leggings that cost more than my first toolbox. I used to think it was cute, the discipline, the focus. But now, I don't know. Something about the way she grabs her water bottle and avoids eye contact feels off. My gut's been talking. Not the acid reflux kind. The kind that buzzes when something's not right. I've always trusted that gut. Saved me more than once. Like back when I was 29, crawling under a client's deck, and I just knew there was a rattlesnake nearby. Didn't see it, didn't hear it, but I backed out slow, and sure enough, the dog started barking, and out slithered that snake like it was late for a meeting. Since then, I've learned, never doubt the gut. It's the one part of me that hasn't lied. These days, though, my gut's louder than ever. I can't pinpoint what it's warning me about. It's not just the gym thing. It's the phone face down on the counter, the half smile when she texts, the new perfume she wears to sweat. It's also the way she stopped asking me to join her for dinner, like I suddenly became allergic to restaurants. And last week, when I walked into the kitchen and she jumped like I'd fired a gun just because I asked, "Who's Logan?" Yeah, that stuck with me. Let me rewind to that moment. She was on her phone, laughing softly. I heard her say, "You're impossible, stop," in that tone women use when they don't want to stop. I asked who she was talking to, and she said, "My trainer, Logan. He's just giving me my new routine." Then she changed the topic faster than a politician under oath. At the time, I played it cool. I nodded, smiled, even threw in a nice to sell the act. But something about the way her hand trembled when she set the phone down. Yeah, my gut logged that into the keep an eye on this folder. So, I started observing. Nothing crazy. I'm not the kind of man who installs spy cameras or tracks phones. I'm the kind who waits, watches, and builds a solid case before saying a word. It's a habit from years in construction. Measure twice, cut once, and never demolish what you might still want to live in. Still, there's a difference between peace and ignorance. And right now, I'm straddling that line like a man trying to balance on a wet fence. Anyway, I'm sitting on the porch one Thursday morning, sipping coffee and watching our neighbor, Martha, power walk her poodle like it's part of the Marines, when Clara steps out, dressed in another athleisure masterpiece. Tight leggings, crop top, matching headband. She looks good, too good. I whistle, because that's what husbands are supposed to do when their wives look like magazine ads. She gives me that polite smile you give a cashier when they compliment your groceries. Then she says, "Don't forget we have dinner with the Turners on Saturday." The Turners. Lord help me. Her parents. If pretentious had a family crest, it'd be hanging over their fireplace. Margaret Turner thinks I'm too practical. Henry Turner once told me I dress like I'm always 10 minutes away from mowing a lawn. I told him it's because I like being ready for emergencies, like this conversation. They come from that side of society where they call regular folks salt of the earth, but wouldn't touch the salt shaker themselves. I grin at Clara and say, "Can't wait. I'll polish my boots. She rolls her eyes. Please don't wear those. Dad's friend from the club will be there. I chuckle. The club? Oh no, wouldn't want to scare the elites with denim and decency. She sighs like I'm the burden of her lifetime. I sip my coffee, calm as Sunday. After she drives off, I sit there listening to the birds and my own unease. You ever get that feeling where your peace is too quiet, like something sneaking up behind it? That's me lately. Every time she says yoga, I hear story. Every time she says client call, I smell cologne that isn't mine. Later that day, I stop by Joe's Hardware. Old habits die hard. Joe's a talker, runs the kind of shop that's half business, half therapy. He leans over the counter and says, "Heard your wife's been hittin' that new Zenforge place." My cousin works maintenance there. Says it's like a soap opera in spandex. I raise an eyebrow. Soap opera? He grins. Trainers flirtin', clients flexin', folks pretendin' they're single. My cousin says it's wild. I chuckle, but inside my stomach tightens. Small towns run on gossip, and gossip's rarely a liar. It just adds extra seasoning. That night, Clara's unusually cheerful. She talks about her progress and how her trainer says she's got great potential. Potential for what? I ask. She laughs. Endurance. Core strength. I smirk. Yeah, I've noticed your core's been very dedicated lately. She misses the sarcasm completely, or pretends to. Then she says, "You should join me sometime, Derek. You'd love the atmosphere." I snort. Sweetheart, the only atmosphere I need is the one with a grill, a recliner, and the Cowboys game. She rolls her eyes and heads upstairs. A minute later, I hear her phone buzz and a soft giggle that doesn't belong to a wife texting her husband. That's when I decide something. I'm done ignoring my gut. Over the next few days, I keep my cool. Still make her breakfast. Still nod and smile. But I also start paying attention. She leaves at 6:15 every morning. Says she'll be back by 8:30. Twice, she came home closer to 10, claiming she stayed late to stretch. If stretching takes 2 extra hours, she's auditioning for Cirque du Soleil. By Sunday, I'm convinced something's cooking. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's everything. But peace doesn't feel like peace anymore. It feels like waiting for a storm you can smell but not see. That evening, I find myself walking through the house with a weird sense of nostalgia. Every photo on the wall feels like an old commercial for a product that's been discontinued. The laughter in those frames feels rented. We built this life together, her decorating, me fixing, but now it's like the foundation's cracking and only I can hear it. I pour myself a bourbon and sit on the back porch, watching the sunset bleed into the horizon. The dog, Buddy, plops down beside me, giving me that look dogs give when they know you're thinking too much. I scratch his head and mutter, "You ever get that sense someone's painting over the truth, bud?" He licks my hand. That's a yes. I glance toward the driveway, where her Mercedes gleams like a trophy. She loves that car more than she loves air. I bought it 2 years ago after she said the old SUV didn't match her brand. I didn't even know we had a brand. But it made her happy. At least, that's what I thought back then. Now I'm not so sure what makes her happy. Or who. Still, I'm not rushing into accusations. That's not my style. I've seen too many good things ruined by hasty demolition. You gotta find the right beam before you swing the hammer. So, for now, I let her think everything's fine. I'll wait. I'll watch. My gut's talking again, low but steady. It says, "Derek, something's coming." And I believe it. Because peace only lasts until someone mistakes it for weakness. So I finish my bourbon, watch the sun disappear behind the oak trees, and whisper, "Let's see where this journey takes us, Clara. You keep running, and I'll keep measuring. Because I might be retired, but I've still got one last blueprint left in me." Wednesday morning started like any other, a symphony of small annoyances. The coffee machine sputtered, the news anchors were yelling about politics like unpaid actors, and Clara left the bathroom light on again, as if electricity were free with every yoga membership. I told myself, "Derek, today you'll stay calm. No drama. No overthinking." Spoiler, that promise didn't survive till noon. I was supposed to head to the hardware store to grab some deck screws for my neighbor, Hal, who somehow managed to build a shed that leaned like it was drunk. I get in my old Silverado, my pride, my companion through every Texas storm, and she decides to pull a Shakespearean death scene right there in the HEB parking lot. I turn the key, engine sputters, coughs, and dies with the kind of finality that says, "It's been real, partner." I sit there staring at the steering wheel, muttering, "You couldn't have waited till I got the groceries, huh?" Now, normally, I'd pop the hood, tinker a bit, and get her running again. But it's 100 degrees, and my patience has a shorter lifespan than a TikTok trend. So I call a tow truck, and in the meantime, I call Clara. "Hey, sweetheart, truck's dead." I say, "Mind if I take your car?" She hesitates a second too long. Yeah, sure, but I've got a class soon." "I'll be quick," I tell her. "Just gotta run errands." She sighs. "Fine. Keys are on the counter. Just be careful. It's due for detailing." Translation: don't get your blue-collar fingerprints on my luxury. I grin. "Copy that, Your Majesty." So I drive her Mercedes GLC. This rolling spa on wheels that smells like new leather, luxury perfume, and financial irresponsibility. I swear, the car even sighs when you close the door, like it's disappointed you're not wearing designer. I can see why she loves it. It's everything I'm not. Sleek, quiet, pretentious. Anyway, halfway to the repair shop, I get this bright idea. Clara's always saying I should be more spontaneous, right? So I figure I'll surprise her after her workout. Maybe grab smoothies. Maybe remind her that her husband still exists and can drive a German vehicle without crashing it. The gym, Zen Forge, sits right next to a boutique coffee shop called Grind and Glow, which sounds like a caffeine-fueled cult. The parking lot's full of shiny cars and people wearing more spandex than an Avengers movie. I park, step out, and immediately feel underdressed, like I've wandered into a fashion show for people who pretend to meditate. That's when Toby, the security guard, spots me. Toby's the kind of guy who looks like he used to play linebacker but now counts yoga mats for a living. He waves big and says, "Oh, you're early." She forgot her bag. Her husband dropped it off already. Now, I'm a patient man. I've dealt with inspectors, lawyers, and in-laws. But that sentence hits like a sucker punch. I blink and smile politely. "Come again." He laughs. "Yeah, her husband came by earlier. Real nice guy, dropped off her gym bag. Said she'd left it in his car." I chuckle because sometimes you need humor to buy time for rage. "That's so." "Sure is," he says proudly, like he's giving directions to heaven. She's inside, been here a while. Doing her second session today. Real dedicated. Dedicated, huh? That's one word for it. I thank Toby and head back to the car. My palms are sweating, but my face? Calm as a priest at confession. Inside the Mercedes, I stare at the dashboard for a minute, heart drumming like it's trying to get my attention. Her husband, Toby, said. Now, unless Clara got remarried during her lunch break, there's something here that smells like rotten protein shakes. I glance at the passenger seat, where her fancy gym bag rests. Designer logo front and center, probably cost more than my first set of tools. Curiosity wins. I unzip it. Inside, towel, charger, water bottle, perfume, and something heavy at the bottom. I pull it out. A men's Rolex. Silver, clean, engraved on the back with the initials, LP, and there it is, a receipt from a place called the Peachwood Grill, dated 2 nights ago. Signed, Logan Pierce. I lean back and exhale, long and slow. Well, ain't that a kick in the teeth? My first instinct isn't to rage, it's to calculate. My grandma always said, never raise your voice when you can raise your eyebrow. I zip the bag, put it back like I found it, and start thinking, who the hell is Logan Pierce? A trainer? A sugar daddy? A magician who makes my wife disappear for hours? I'll find out soon enough. When Clara finally walks out of the gym, she looks radiant, sweaty but glowing, like someone who just solved world hunger. She freezes the moment she sees her Mercedes. Her eyes flicker from the car to me, to the gym, then back to me again. That's 3 lies forming before she even opens her mouth. Oh, you fixed the truck? She asks, too cheerful. Nope, I say, keeping my tone light. Just borrowed yours. Toby said your husband dropped off your bag earlier. She blinks. The smile twitches like bad Wi-Fi. Oh, he meant one of the trainers. We joke like that. You know Toby, always kidding. Ah, I nod. Cute joke. Real knee slapper. She laughs nervously, then hugs me. Too tight, too fast, like she's trying to erase the last 30 seconds. You didn't have to come all this way. I was about to head home. I figured I'd pick you up, I say. Maybe get smoothies, my treat. Actually, I already had one, she blurts. Ah, I say again. Productive day then. She nods, too quickly. Yup. Great day. Let's head home. On the drive back, she fills the silence with small talk. Weather, errands, some influencer she follows who manifested a Tesla. I just smile and let her talk, nodding in all the right places while my brain rewrites every memory of the past 6 months. When we pull into the driveway, she thanks me, kisses my cheek, and rushes inside to shower. I stay in the car for a while, staring at that bag sitting innocently in the back seat. That Rolex is burning a hole through the leather like it knows I'm not done. Inside, she hums upstairs, water running. I walk to the kitchen, grab a bourbon, and lean against the counter. I pull out my phone, open my notes app, and type 3 words, find Logan Pierce. Then I sip and smile, because if there's one thing I've learned in construction, it's that every crack starts small. 10 minutes later, she comes down, hair wrapped in a towel, smiling like nothing's wrong. What's for dinner? She asks. I shrug. Whatever we can make from the leftovers. She laughs. You and your leftovers. Hey. I grin. Old stuff can still be useful. You just have to know where the rod is. She doesn't catch it. She never does. She scrolls through her phone while I plate reheated chicken, humming like a woman who's definitely hiding something. Halfway through dinner, I say, Hey, what's your trainer's name again? She freezes just a microsecond, then recovers. Logan. What? Just curious, I say. Toby mentioned him. Said he's popular with clients. She shrugs. He's fine. Strict, but good at his job. Good at his job. I repeat, tasting the words like old gum. After dinner, she spends another hour scrolling Instagram, posting motivation quotes about balance and trust while I'm silently Googling Logan Pierce ZenForge trainer. And there he is, a chiseled jawline, perfect smile, the kind of guy who probably uses bro as punctuation. Trainer of the month. Picture with my wife, tagged client spotlight. I stare at the screen, chuckle softly, and whisper, Congratulations, Logan. You just won the wrong lottery. When I head to bed, she's already asleep, or pretending to be. I lie there in the dark, staring at the ceiling fan, listening to it click like a metronome, counting down to something big. The gut feeling from before? It's not whispering anymore. It's yelling through a megaphone. But I don't confront her. Not yet. You don't storm the house before you study the blueprints. Tomorrow, I tell myself, I'll call someone who knows how to follow trails without leaving footprints. Because whatever Claire is building here, it's about to collapse, and I plan to watch every brick fall in order. I take another slow breath and smirk in the dark. You forgot your bag, honey, I mutter to the ceiling. But you just handed me a blueprint. You ever hold something in your hands that feels heavier than it should? That's what that gym bag felt like sitting on the passenger seat beside me the next morning. I'd meant to drop it off at ZenForge for Clara. Be the good husband, do the noble thing. But the second I touched it, I knew I wasn't ready to let it go. It wasn't just a bag. It was a mystery in monogrammed leather. See, I'd been married twice before. Once to a woman who collected scented candles like they were trophies, and once to a woman who collected excuses. So, I know when something smells off, and it wasn't the eucalyptus lotion this time. That bag had secrets, and if marriage taught me anything, it's that secrets don't stay quiet. They hum, like an electrical wire right before it sparks. So, there I was, parked in front of my old workshop, sipping a lukewarm coffee, staring at this designer bag like it might talk back. Eventually, curiosity wins. I unzip it. Inside are the usual suspects: perfume, towel, charger, lip gloss, her gym ID. But tucked in one of those tiny side compartments where women store the stuff they think men never notice? Jackpot. A men's Rolex. Silver band, black dial, polished so clean I could see my dumbfounded reflection in it. Engraved on the back, LP. Then there's the receipt, creased but legible, from the Peachwood Grill, a place where the cheapest steak costs more than a car payment. Date: 2 nights ago. Signature: Logan Pierce. Now, I've had some bad mornings before, flat tires, bad news, once even a rabid raccoon incident, but nothing quite compares to sitting in your wife's luxury car holding another man's watch and dinner receipt. It's a special kind of sting. I don't rage. I don't throw things. I just sit there, breathing slow. When you've been through as many storms as I have, you learn anger's a waste of ammo. The trick is to stay quiet and let the truth dig its own grave. My grandmother used to say, never argue with a fool. They'll drag you to their level and beat you with experience. Clara might be book smart, but she's emotionally reckless. If she's cheating, she's making rookie mistakes. I tuck the watch back inside and zip the bag closed. That's when my phone buzzes. Clara. Hey, babe, she says, voice sweet like she's pouring syrup over lies. Did you drop my bag off? Not yet, I reply, calm as a monk. Got caught up fixing the truck situation. But I'm heading that way now. Oh, no rush, she chirps. I actually don't need it till later. Good to know, I say. By the way, you had a dinner charge at Peachwood Grill. Client meeting. Silence. 1 beat. 2. Then oh, yeah, a networking thing with some of the gym investors. You know, they're expanding locations. Ah. I nod, though she can't see me. Must have been a productive dinner. Who's Logan Pierce? She laughs, a little too fast, too loud. He's one of the trainers. You've met him, haven't you? I don't think so. Well, he's new. Young. Nice guy. Just helping me with a wellness plan. Wellness, I echo. That's what they're calling it now. Excuse me. Nothing, sweetheart. Drive safe. I hang up before she can. There's a long pause after the call where I just sit there, staring through the windshield, watching dust float in the morning light. You know that quiet right before thunder rolls in? That's what it felt like inside me. I could confront her now. Slam the watch down on the kitchen table, demand answers, start the fireworks early. But that's not my style. I built houses for a living. I don't start tearing down walls until I know which ones are load-bearing. So I decide to play it slow. When she comes home that evening, she's glowing. Literally glowing, all smiles and perfume. Hey, handsome, she says, kissing my cheek. You smell like grease and stress. I grin. And you smell like deceit and cardio. She laughs. You're so funny. I pour us both a glass of wine, pretending everything's fine. She talks about her day, her workout, her client goals. I nod, throw in the occasional uh-huh, and watch her lie without blinking. She's good, practiced. But people always forget. A man who's built foundations knows how to spot cracks. Later that night, while she showers, I pour myself a bourbon and sit at the kitchen counter with the Rolex. I spin it slowly, the second hand ticking like a countdown. My mind drifts back through the years, every project I finished, every blueprint I trusted. You measure twice, you cut once, and you don't start demolition until you know exactly what you're tearing down. That's when it hits me. I don't need to catch her in the act. I just need confirmation. Proof. Solid, photographic, can't squirm out of it proof. And I know just the man for the job. Russ Delaney. Old friend, former cop turned private investigator. The kind of guy who can find your cheating spouse, your lost dog, and your neighbor's Wi-Fi password, all in the same afternoon. I call him. Russ, it's Derek. He chuckles. Well, hell, you finally bored enough to commit a crime. Not yet, but I think someone's committing one against me. Talk to me. Name's Logan Pierce. Trainer at Zen Forge. I need eyes on him and Clara for a few days. Nothing loud, nothing messy. He whistles low. That gym again. Man, every time someone says wellness, it ends with someone crying in a lawyer's office. Yeah, well, let's make sure it's not me. Got it. Give me 3 days. I hang up, feeling that odd mix of dread and relief. It's like setting a trap. You don't want to catch anything, but you also really, really do. The next few days move slow, like the universe is teasing me. Clara's more cheerful than usual. That's the thing about guilt. It makes people act happier. She leaves earlier, hums while she packs, even brings me coffee once. You're in a good mood, I say. She smiles. Life's about balance. Balance. That word's doing a lot of heavy lifting in this marriage. By Thursday night, my gut's practically screaming, but I keep cool. I even cook dinner, steak, mashed potatoes, her favorite wine. We eat like normal people, and she tells me she's going to an early training session the next morning. Good for you, I say. Get that heart rate up. She beams. You're so supportive. If only she knew. The next morning, I watch from the window as she drives off in the Mercedes. She doesn't notice me wave. I don't even blink until the car disappears down the street. Hours later, Russ calls. Got something for you. You might want to sit down. I'm already sitting. Good. 'Cause this one's classic. He tells me he followed them after their morning session. Says they grabbed lunch, held hands across the table like a Hallmark movie. Then they drove to the Peachwood Grill. Same booth, same order, same fake smiles. After that, they checked into a place called Cedar Oaks Inn. Checked in together, Russ adds, voice low. Checked out. I ask. Couple hours later. Separate cars. I thank him, hang up, and pour myself another bourbon. The ice clinks like punctuation in the silence. You know what's funny? The calm that comes after confirmation. It's not rage, it's focus. Like I finally have the blueprint. I stare at the Rolex again, that shiny little trophy of betrayal. There's no more guessing. Clara's lies just turned into my strategy. I could go nuclear, sure. Yell, scream, throw her stuff out. But where's the satisfaction in that? No, I'm a builder. I don't explode, I rebuild. So I start sketching plans in my mind. Quiet plans. Smart ones. The kind that end with me holding all the cards while she wonders how she lost the deck. When Clara comes home that night, she's all smiles. Long day. She sighs, tossing her shoes by the door. Yeah, I say, smiling. You must be exhausted. She leans down to kiss me. You have no idea. Oh, sweetheart, I think. You have no idea. That night, the house was quiet, too quiet. The kind of quiet that lets you hear your own thoughts, and mine were pacing like restless hounds. Clara was upstairs showering, probably humming that same self-care playlist she loves, the one with songs that make betrayal sound empowering. I sat at the kitchen counter with my old friend, bourbon. Neat, strong, honest. Qualities I suddenly missed in people. The Rolex sat right in front of me, gleaming under the warm light. I spun it on the counter like a coin, the second hand ticking with smug precision. Expensive thing. Definitely not the kind of watch you forget in a gym bag. Especially not when you're a married woman's trainer. The engraving on the back, LP, almost mocked me. Logan Pierce. Man even had a movie star name. Probably moisturizes his elbows and calls it skin discipline. Now, I could have stormed upstairs, kicked open that bathroom door, and demanded answers. But here's the thing. When you're in construction as long as I've been, you learn not to swing the hammer until you're sure which beam holds the roof up. You don't start demo day until you know exactly what you're tearing down. So instead of blowing up, I decided to plan. I took another sip of bourbon and thought about my options. Option 1, confrontation. Dramatic, satisfying for about 30 seconds, then messy. She'd cry, deny, maybe throw in a "you're paranoid, Derek," and I'd end up the villain. Option 2, patience. Gather proof, let the truth corner itself. I always preferred slow builds over quick collapses. So I pulled out my phone and called Russ Delaney, my old buddy from the force. We'd built decks together back in our 20s. Then he traded his hammer for a badge. Now he's a private investigator, semi-retired, spends half his time fishing and the other half catching cheaters who think sunglasses and secrecy make them invisible. Russ, I said when he picked up, you still in the business of digging up ugly truths? He chuckled, that same gravelly laugh that sounded like it had seen too many crime scenes and cheap cigars. Well, if it pays better than trout, sure. Who we looking at? My wife. And a guy named Logan Pierce. Trainer at Zen Forge. He whistled low. Oof. The old gym romance. Classic. Nothing like endorphins and bad lighting to make people forget their vows. You want me to tail him? Yeah. I just need confirmation. Names, faces, maybe a receipt that doesn't involve kale smoothies. Got it. Give me 3 days. 3 days. That's all I needed to keep calm. I hung up, put my phone face down, and stared out the kitchen window. The Texas night stretched wide and silent, moonlight spilling over the yard like a spotlight on a man about to make a terrible decision. The dog, Buddy, slept by the door, occasionally twitching in his dreams, probably chasing rabbits or better spouses. Upstairs, Clara's shower turned off. I quickly slipped the Rolex back in the bag, zipped it shut, and placed it right where it was before, on the counter near her purse. I poured another half-inch of bourbon just as she walked in, wearing a silk robe and that fake smile she saves for when she's trying to act normal. Long day? She asked, voice soft, practiced. Something like that, I said, swirling the drink. You? Oh, cardio, yoga, mindfulness. She opened the fridge, pulled out a bottle of sparkling water, her latest clean living obsession, and leaned against the counter. You didn't happen to drop my gym bag off, did you? Nah, I said casually. Didn't have time. Figured I'd bring it tomorrow. Her eyes flicked to the bag, then back to me, just for a second. Most people wouldn't notice it. I did. The little micro-expression of panic before she smoothed it over with a smile. Oh, that's fine. I'll take it tomorrow. I smiled. Good plan. She tilted her head, maybe sensing something under the surface. You okay, Derek? You've been quiet lately. Just enjoying the peace, I said, with a grin that probably looked a little too sharp. You ever notice how quiet can tell you things noise can't? She blinked, confused. What does that mean? Nothing, I said. Just a thought. She shrugged and padded upstairs, leaving me alone again with the bourbon, the watch, and my thoughts. I didn't sleep much that night. Every sound, the fridge hum, the creak of the stairs, even Buddy's snoring, felt like static on a bad frequency. My mind replayed every moment of our marriage in reverse, trying to pinpoint when the crack started. Maybe it was that first networking trip to Austin last fall, or the sudden shift from Netflix nights to early workouts. Or maybe it was me, thinking comfort was enough to keep love interesting. By the next morning, I'd made up my mind. No confrontation until I had facts. Not suspicions, not assumptions, facts. Because when I move, I don't miss. Clara left early again, yoga mat in hand. Same script as always. I watched her drive off, then sat at the table with my phone, waiting for Russ to deliver the truth. The man's efficient. By day 2, he texted me. Got movement. You'll want to see this when I drop by. So Friday evening, right around sunset, Russ pulled up in his old Ford Explorer. The manila envelope in his hand looked innocent enough, but I knew it probably held the end of something. He stepped onto the porch, gave me a long look, and said, You want the short version or the long one? Let's go with reality. I'm done with fairy tales. He handed me the envelope. Trainer boy's been busy. Photos, timestamps, receipts. She's either training for a marathon or trying to break a world record for bad decisions. Inside were photos. Clara and Logan at the Peachwood Grill, his hand on hers, both smiling like they just found out cheating burns calories. Another photo, them walking into Cedar Oaks Inn, arm in arm. Then one more, her in yoga gear, him holding her waist by her car, both grinning like teenagers in trouble. Russ leaned on the railing. You want me to keep digging? I shook my head, flipping through the photos slowly. No need. That's enough to build a whole damn lawsuit. He chuckled. What's the plan, Walsh? You gonna blow up? I smiled, that slow, dangerous kind of smile that made my ex-employees back in the day quietly clear a path. No, Russ. I'm gonna remodel. He laughed. That's your builder brain talking again. Exactly. You don't fix rot by yelling at it. You cut it out. He nodded, approvingly. Well, you always were the patient type. Just remember, revenge and whiskey don't mix too well. I'm not looking for revenge, I said, finishing my drink. I'm looking for peace. I just planned to make it expensive for her. After Russ left, I sat back down at the counter, the photos spread out like blueprints for a demolition job. It was almost artistic, the way she smiled at him, the way he looked at her. Like a masterpiece of betrayal, framed in arrogance. I poured another drink, stared at the Rolex one last time, and thought about the irony. Here I was, a man who spent his life building homes, realizing the one I lived in had no foundation left. The whole thing was a facade, painted walls, hollow beams, expensive finishes hiding the cracks underneath. But I wasn't going to let it break me. Hell no. I'd built too many houses to let one collapse define me. Instead, I decided to rebuild, quietly, thoughtfully, strategically. That night, before heading to bed, I logged into our joint bank account. Just to take inventory, you know. And wouldn't you know it, Miss Financial Mindfulness had been generous with her spending. Spa retreats, boutique gyms, weekend getaways that suddenly made sense now. So I drafted a new plan. Step 1, separate accounts. Step 2, talk to my accountant about asset protection. Step 3, smile like nothing's wrong until I own every piece of calm she can't touch. Clara came downstairs halfway through, wrapped in that silk robe again. You're still up? She asked, yawning. Couldn't sleep, I said. Got some work on my mind. Oh, I thought you retired. I smirked. Nah, I just shifted from building houses to building strategy. She laughed, kissed my forehead, and went back upstairs. And I sat there, watching her shadow move through the upstairs hallway, wondering if she had any idea the ground under her feet had just started shifting. I swirled the bourbon in my glass, the ice clinking softly, and whispered to the Rolex sitting on the table. Tick-tock, Logan. Tick-tock. 3 days. That's all Russ asked for, and I gave it to him like a man waiting for lab results. Those 72 hours felt longer than my entire first marriage, and that one lasted 9 years. I didn't say a word to Clara the whole time. Not about the gym, not about the watch, not even about the truck still sitting like a dead soldier in the mechanic's yard. She thought I was just moody. You need to meditate, she told me. Yeah, sure, because deep breathing fixes betrayal. By the time Russ texted, "Coffee and truth, 9 a.m., I'd already braced myself. There's a special kind of calm that comes before you get proof of something you already know. It's like your brain is trying to comfort you while your heart's in the back screaming, "Don't open that envelope." He showed up at my house right on time, wearing his usual fishing hat and that grin of someone who's about to drop dynamite into your pond. "Got you your morning news," he said, setting a manila envelope on my counter. "No subscriptions required. Tell me you at least brought donuts with that?" I muttered, pouring 2 coffees. He grinned. "No donuts, but I brought closure." We sat at the kitchen island, steam rising from the mugs between us. My palms itched as I opened the envelope, half expecting smoke to billow out. Inside were photographs, actual printed photos. Russ is old school like that. He says digital files are for cowards and hackers. I spread them out on the counter, and for a second, the world went quiet. There she was, Clara, my wife, sitting across from Logan Pierce at the Peachwood Grill, the same restaurant from the receipt. Candlelight reflecting off their wine glasses, his hand draped over hers like they were posing for a Hallmark special called A Fair Season. Another shot, Logan opening her car door. Next one, him brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. Then, the one that did me in, them walking into Cedar Oaks and together. Side by side, smiling. Her head leaned toward him just enough to tell me this wasn't a wellness consultation. Russ sipped his coffee, watching my reaction like a doctor waiting for the heartbeat to flatline. "Trainer type," he said finally. "Good hair, bad morals. Probably thinks protein powder counts as a personality." I didn't speak. I just stared at the last photo, her hand on his chest. It wasn't even lustful, it was familiar. Comfortable. That's what stung the most. Familiarity. You don't fake that kind of ease. That's the kind of touch that says, "We've done this before." "You okay?" Russ asked quietly. I let out a slow breath. "Define okay." He scratched his beard. "You want me to keep following him?" I shook my head. "No, that's enough. I got what I need." He leaned back. "So what's the plan, Walsh? You gonna go full Texas Chainsaw or just classic divorce court?" I chuckled. "Neither. I'm not blowing up my own house because somebody else tracked mud on the porch." He smirked. "So you're staying calm?" "Calm," I said, lifting my coffee. "But not quiet." He laughed, raising his mug in salute. That's the Derek I remember. After Russ left, I sat there staring at those photos spread out across my counter like crime scene evidence. Proof. There it was. Tangible, undeniable proof. I should have felt destroyed, or furious, or something loud. But instead, I felt steady, focused, like I'd been living in fog, and someone finally opened a window. You ever notice how betrayal doesn't explode? It seeps, like water through drywall. Slow at first, then one day, you realize the whole wall's rotten. Clara's been seeping lies for months. All I did was finally pull off the wallpaper. Around noon, I poured myself a bourbon. Yeah, I know, too early. But so's adultery, so we're even. I took my glass and the photos out back, sat on the porch swing, and let the wind flip them around on the table like cards in a bad poker hand. Buddy, my dog, jumped up beside me, his head resting on my knee. "She's a piece of work, huh, bud?" He wagged his tail, probably thinking I meant he was getting a treat. "You ever notice how cheaters always look happier before they get caught?" I asked him. He yawned. Smart dog. Knew this wasn't his problem. I thought about the irony. Clara married me because she said she was tired of immature men. Wanted someone stable, dependable. Well, congratulations, sweetheart. You got dependable. Too bad you confused stability with stupidity. The more I stared at those pictures, the more the edges of my anger sharpened into something useful. Revenge wasn't my style, but restoration? That I could do. See, when you spend your life building things, you also learn how to rebuild them better, stronger, smarter, quieter. By evening, Clara came home, humming some upbeat song about self-love. She dropped her gym bag by the door and walked into the kitchen. "Hey babe," she chirped. "You're home early." I smiled from the table. "Yeah, had a productive day." She kissed my cheek, then reached for the fridge. "You okay?" You look intense. I'm great, I said. Just working on a new project. Oh, she turned, curious. What kind of project? I grinned. A remodeling one. She laughed, oblivious. You miss construction, huh? You have no idea, I said, sipping my bourbon. She didn't even notice the envelope sitting under a stack of mail. Didn't see the photos waiting like landmines. She poured herself a glass of sparkling water and went upstairs to shower, humming the same damn tune. I watched her go, and part of me almost pitied her. Almost. That night, I laid the photos out on my workbench in the garage. My old domain. The smell of sawdust and oil always calmed me. I looked at those faces, hers and his, and thought, you have no idea what's coming, do you? Because I wasn't just going to confront her. Oh no, I was going to rebuild my piece, brick by brick, and leave her wondering how the hell the walls closed in. I called Russ again. You still got that contact at the gym? Yeah. What? I might need a little help with some policy enforcement. He laughed. You're a dangerous man, Derek. Only when I've been pushed into early retirement. I spent the rest of the night planning. Step 1. Confirm whether this Logan idiot was officially on payroll or just freelancing his stupidity. Step 2. Find out if ZenForge had any ethics clauses about trainer-client relationships. Step 3. Use that information to make both of them very, very uncomfortable. By morning, I had a full plan drawn out on a notepad like I was drafting blueprints. Clara thought she was playing a game. I was building the arena. When she left for yoga again, I made my move. I printed a copy of the gym's code of conduct off their website, because every fancy fitness club likes to pretend they're one HR meeting away from sainthood. Underlined in bold, romantic or sexual relationships between staff and clients are strictly prohibited and grounds for termination. Perfect. Then I stapled the policy to one of Russ's photos, Clara and Logan holding hands, and slipped it into an envelope marked confidential. I addressed it to the gym's manager, Mr. Crawford, who looked like a man that still believed in rules. I wrote a polite note. Dear Mr. Crawford, as a concerned community member and former business owner, I wanted to bring to your attention a potential breach of professional policy within your facility. Out of respect for your staff and members, I'll keep this matter discreet. I trust you'll handle it appropriately. DW. Then I drove to the gym, parked 2 blocks away, and dropped the envelope in the mail slot like a man delivering divine justice. Walking back to my truck, I felt lighter than I had in weeks. There's something peaceful about taking action quietly. No yelling, no drama, just precision. Like tightening the last screw on a perfectly fitted frame. That evening, Clara came home glowing again. Hey, you'll never guess who's being promoted at the gym, she said. Logan might be getting a senior trainer position. I sipped my coffee, smiling inside. That's so? Sounds like a big responsibility. Yeah, they're doing evaluations this week. I raised my cup. Well, I'm sure he'll make a lasting impression. She grinned. You're funny. I'm patient, I corrected. The next morning, my phone buzzed. Russ again. You're gonna love this, he said. Logan just got called into the manager's office. 10 minutes later, he walked out looking like he'd swallowed a cactus. Guess who was standing there watching? I smirked. Let me guess, his client? You bet. She froze like a deer in headlights. I hung up, sat back, and let out a long breath. Justice, it turns out, doesn't always need noise. Sometimes it just needs timing. I looked at the photos one last time before sliding them into a folder labeled Completed Projects. Then I poured myself a bourbon, toasted the silence, and thought, measure twice, cut once, and never doubt the gut. I've always believed revenge is just construction with better lighting. You don't tear something down because you're angry. You do it because the foundation's rotten. And if there's one thing I know after 30 years of building homes, it's that you can't just patch over rot and call it renovation. You start by gutting the place clean. So that next morning, while Clara hummed upstairs, blissfully unaware that her little wellness empire was about to spring a leak, I started my project. Operation Quiet Construction. Step 1 was financial insulation. That's a fancy way of saying I cut the power to her spending spree. While she blow-dried her hair upstairs, I sat at the kitchen counter with my laptop, logged into our joint bank account, and smiled the way men smile when they finally cancel the nonsense. I removed her access to the joint credit cards, deleted her from every shared account we had like I was clearing a virus off my system. Goodbye, Sephora subscriptions. Farewell, monthly juice cleanse deliveries that tasted like someone blended grass and regret. I even called the juice company myself. Yeah, I said, pretending to sound remorseful. Clara Walsh won't be continuing her subscription. Doctor's orders. Too much chlorophyll. The rep paused, then said, Understood, sir. You bet it's understood. Step 2. I turned off the gym's auto-renewal payments. If ZenForge wanted her membership money, they could invoice her personally. See how far those eucalyptus-scented smiles got her now. Step 3. I deactivated her spare Mercedes key. It wasn't about control. It was about symbolism. The same way she used that car to drive away from honesty, I used it to drive her back into reality. All that took about an hour. Clean, efficient, therapeutic. I hadn't felt that focus since I built my first home on my own. Just me, my tools, and no one telling me I was overreacting. By the time Clara floated down the stairs, all toned and smug in her Sunday reset yoga outfit, I was sipping coffee like a man who'd just found inner peace on clearance. Morning, sweetheart, she said, kissing my cheek. You're up early. Couldn't sleep, I said. I was doing some light restructuring. She smiled. Oh, another home project? Something like that. She poured her almond milk latte, because God forbid we use real milk, and scrolled through her phone. I watched her face shift from relaxed to confused to slightly pale as the texts started coming in. Oh, weird, she murmured. My card's declining on the Salon app. Must be a glitch, I said. Technology's funny like that. She tried another one, and my gym autopay failed. Huh, I said deadpan. That's unfortunate. Guess you'll have to stretch your budget manually. She laughed nervously, probably thinking I was kidding. Right? You're funny. I wasn't. After breakfast, she left for HIIT training at ZenForge. I watched her go, my gut no longer whispering but humming with satisfaction. The storm was forming nicely, and all I had to do was let it rain. I didn't plan to go full soap opera. No dramatic confrontations. No shouting matches that end with someone throwing wine. I wanted precision. The kind that leaves people wondering if karma drives a pickup truck. I printed the photos Russ had given me, the incriminating ones, and slid them into a neat folder labeled Policy Violation. On top, I placed a copy of ZenForge Trainer-Client Ethics Clause, which I downloaded and highlighted like a proud tattletale. Then I drafted a short, polite email to the gym manager, Mr. Crawford. Subject, Confidential Matter, Policy Breach. Dear Mr. Crawford, I'm reaching out regarding an important concern involving one of your staff members, Mr. Logan Pierce, and a client currently enrolled at ZenForge. As a community member and former business owner, I value professionalism and trust in local establishments. I'd prefer to handle this discreetly rather than publicly. Attached are materials for your review. Respectfully, Derek Walsh. No threats, no demands. Just an invitation to uphold their own rules. Nothing terrifies corporations more than the word discreet. I sent the email, then attached the photos. Hit send. Sat back. 10 minutes later, I got the auto response. Thank you for your message. Your concern has been received and will be handled promptly by management. Translation, panic mode activated. I spent the rest of the morning doing what I used to do best, planning. I even grabbed my old yellow notepad, the one I used when managing job sites. At the top, I wrote in bold letters, Demo Day Prep. Underneath it, my list. 1. Secure finances. Done. 2. Notify gym management. Done. 3. Observe fallout. In progress. 4. Maintain poker face. Always. Around noon, I drove into town to grab supplies. Not building supplies, mental ones. Good bourbon, steak, and cigars. If Peace had a grocery list, that was mine. On the way, I ran into my neighbor, Martha, the retired teacher who knows everyone's business before they do. Morning, Derek, she chirped, walking her poodle. Haven't seen Clara lately. She's still at that fancy gym? Yep, I said, smiling. They're giving her a new workout routine this week. Oh, that's nice. What kind? I grinned. It's called accountability training. She laughed, thinking I was joking. I wasn't. When I got home, I grilled myself a steak, poured a bourbon, and watched the driveway like it was a stage. Around 3 p.m., Clara's Mercedes pulled in. She came inside looking rattled, face pale, voice clipped. Derek, she said, dropping her gym bag on the counter. Did you contact the gym about something? I raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? She folded her arms. Mr. Crawford called me into his office. He said there's been a complaint about me and my trainer. You wouldn't complain? I interrupted, sipping my drink. No, I just offered feedback. You know me. Always want places to improve. Her eyes narrowed. This isn't funny. Logan got suspended. Suspended? I said, feigning surprise. Wow, must be serious. Probably those boundaries they talk about in the membership guide. Page 6, if I remember right. Her lips pressed tight. You humiliated me. No, I said calmly. You exposed yourself. I just installed the lighting. She glared at me, speechless for a moment. Then she stormed upstairs, heels thudding like accusations. I heard drawers opening, zippers, muttered curses. I leaned back, took another sip of bourbon, and whispered, Phase 1, complete. By evening, she'd gone silent. Didn't speak a word through dinner, didn't even sit across from me. She retreated to the bedroom early, probably calling her sister in Dallas for damage control. I stayed downstairs with Buddy, watching Yellowstone reruns and letting the irony wash over me. Now, I'm not heartless. I didn't enjoy seeing her flustered. Well, not entirely. But let's be honest, after months of deceit, watching her finally face a consequence felt like a man standing in the rain after a drought. Cleansing. Later that night, I checked my email again. There it was, an official message from Mr. Crawford. Subject, confidential matter, policy breach. Mr. Walsh, thank you for bringing this to our attention. We take all matters of professionalism very seriously. After reviewing your submission, we have terminated Mr. Pierce's employment, effective immediately. We appreciate your discretion in this matter. C. Crawford, General Manager. I sat there, reading it twice, maybe 3 times. That single word, terminated, had never looked so poetic. Upstairs, I heard Clara pacing. Maybe she was realizing her gym community just evicted her secret. Maybe she was realizing that the man she'd betrayed wasn't the fool she thought he was. I poured myself one last drink, raised the glass to the ceiling, and said quietly, to reconstruction, may the walls hold better this time. I slept like a baby that night. The next morning, Clara barely looked at me. She grabbed a suitcase from the closet, stuffing it with clothes and fury. I'm going to stay with my sister for a while, she said flatly. I nodded. Take your time. Reflection's cheaper than therapy. She stopped at the door. You think this makes you better than me? No, I said, sipping my coffee. Just smarter. When the door slammed, the silence that followed didn't hurt, it healed. The house, once filled with her scented candles and motivational quotes, finally smelled like normal again, like coffee and peace. I took Buddy for a walk, nodded at Martha, and smiled when she said, Everything all right, Derek? Better than ever, I said. Just remodeling. And as we walked down the street, the sun hit just right, warming the back of my neck, and I realized something simple but true. Sometimes rebuilding your life doesn't mean starting from scratch. Sometimes it just means tearing out what's been quietly eating the beams and trusting your own damn hands again. By Friday afternoon, the air around our house felt thicker than a July heat wave in Amarillo. Clara hadn't said a word to me since her "I'm going to my sister's" declaration, which, for the record, she never followed through on. I guess packing drama for attention burns more calories than actually leaving. She'd been walking around all week like a wounded celebrity. Big sunglasses, long sighs, and that tragic silence people use when they're dying for you to ask, what's wrong? Spoiler, I didn't ask. Instead, I did what any man of peace and patience would do. I observed, listened, waited, because I knew one thing about Clara. She couldn't resist the urge to prove she was still in control. And sure enough, that Friday morning she strutted into the kitchen in her black leggings and a fresh Zen Forge Elite tank top, hair in a ponytail so tight it could hold grudges. I'm heading to the gym, she said coolly, grabbing her keys. Didn't they, have some management shakeup? I asked, all innocent. She shot me a look sharp enough to cut drywall. They reinstated my membership. Mr. Crawford personally apologized for the misunderstanding. I sipped my coffee, unimpressed. Oh, that's great news. Hope the new trainer's as talented as the last one. She froze for a second, then gave me that PR smile, the one that doesn't reach her eyes. You really should let things go, Derek. It's not healthy. Oh, don't worry, sweetheart, I said. I'm healthier than ever. Been doing some emotional cardio lately. Builds endurance. She rolled her eyes and left. slamming the door so hard the eucalyptus candle on the counter trembled. Now, if you think I just sat around after that, you don't know me. I'm a man of structure. When I build something, I follow through until the paint's dry. So, after finishing my coffee and giving Buddy a scratch behind the ears, I grabbed my truck keys, the real ones, not her Mercedes keys, and decided to pay Zen Forge a friendly visit. Call it curiosity. Call it poetic symmetry. I just wanted to see how the house I rattled was holding up. Zen Forge on a Friday afternoon looked like a Lululemon commercial exploded. Glossy floor, fake plants, and people pretending to find enlightenment between squats. I parked across the street, right under the "No Parking for Non-Members" sign, because some rules are just suggestions when you've already paid your dues. From my spot, I had a perfect view through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Inside, there she was, Clara. On the treadmill, posture immaculate, pretending she wasn't sweating. She had her AirPods in, face set to strong, independent woman who didn't just get her affair partner fired. But what really caught my attention was the ripple of whispers around her. Employees talking in low tones. One of the front desk girls glancing nervously toward the back office. Then I saw him, Mr. Crawford. Mid-50s, built like a linebacker who discovered kale late in life. Walking out of his office with that, "We're about to handle business" look. He scanned the room, nodded to someone, and disappeared again. My phone buzzed. A text from Russ. "We're handling it now. You can observe. East window's your best angle." I chuckled. Damn, Russ. You're better than cable. 5 minutes later, Logan Pierce appeared. I almost didn't recognize him without his arrogance turned up to full volume. Gone was the charming trainer swagger. He looked nervous, pale, like a man who just realized motivational quotes won't save him. He was carrying a duffel bag, probably full of protein powder and poor decisions. Mr. Crawford motioned him into the office. The glass door shut behind them. I couldn't hear the words, but I could read the body language. Crawford was calm but firm, pointing to papers on the desk. Logan shook his head, gesturing wildly, the way people do when they're cornered and running out of script. Crawford stayed steady, voice low, measured. Then Logan's shoulders dropped. He nodded once, picked up his bag, and walked out of the office like a man walking off stage after forgetting his lines. And just like that, Logan Pierce, gym god, king of core training, prince of poor judgment, was officially unemployed. I grinned. It wasn't schadenfreude. Okay, maybe a little. But mostly it was relief. Watching that man's career pack itself into a duffel bag felt like hearing the final nail click into place on a well-built frame. Clara was still on the treadmill when Logan walked out. Their eyes met for a split second. She slowed down, her confident stride faltering. I could practically see the panic ripple through her body. She hit the stop button, stepped off, and grabbed her towel like it could shield her from the truth. She scanned the gym, probably looking for her next excuse, when she saw me, leaning against the front counter outside, sipping from a small bottle of water I'd picked up from the vending machine. I raised it slightly like a toast. Her face went redder than her yoga mat. She stormed over to the front desk and spoke to the receptionist, who looked like she wanted to sink into the floor. Whatever Clara said, the poor girl just nodded helplessly and handed her a small black gym bag. My gym bag, the very same designer one that had started this entire chain reaction. The receptionist walked outside and handed it to me through the open door. "Here you go, sir. Mrs. Walsh said you wanted this returned." "Perfect timing," I said with a smile. "Appreciate it." Clara appeared a moment later, face flushed with fury, sweat glistening on her forehead. She was breathing hard, not from cardio but from rage. "Derek, what the hell did you do?" I smiled, calm as ever. "Just helped enforce the rules. Community service, you could say." "You embarrassed me," she hissed. "No," I said evenly, setting the bag down on the counter. "You embarrassed yourself. I just installed better lighting." A couple of gym members nearby were pretending to stretch, but had their ears perked like hunting dogs. One guy dropped his dumbbells mid-set, just to listen better. The receptionist froze behind her computer, eyes darting between us like a tennis match. Clara lowered her voice, which, frankly, made her sound even more unhinged. "Do you have any idea how unprofessional this is?" "Unprofessional." I chuckled. Coming from the woman who turned yoga sessions into romantic comedies? Her jaw tightened. "You think this is funny?" "No, I think it's justice with air conditioning." She stepped closer, finger pointing at me. You think cutting off my cards, my accounts, humiliating me, it makes you some kind of hero? I shrugged. No, just a man reclaiming his peace. You should try it sometime. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The only sound was the faint whir of treadmills and the click-click of someone's earbuds case snapping shut. Then she shook her head, eyes glassy but defiant. You'll regret this, Derek. I smirked. I doubt it. Regrets for people who didn't take their gut seriously. She stared at me like she wanted to burn a hole through my skull, then spun on her heel and stormed toward the locker rooms. The gym floor stayed frozen for a few seconds. Then life awkwardly resumed. People pretending not to have just witnessed the emotional equivalent of a car crash. I turned to the receptionist, who looked like she might actually combust from stress. Sorry about the commotion, I said kindly. I'll be on my way. She nodded quickly. It's fine, sir. Have a nice day. Oh, I plan to, I said, slinging the bag over my shoulder. As I walked out, I passed Toby, the security guard who'd accidentally set this whole thing in motion. He gave me a sheepish wave. Everything all right, Mr. Walsh? Better than all right, I said. You were right, Toby. She did have a husband. Just the wrong one. He frowned, confused, but I patted his arm. You're good, man. Keep doing your job. Outside, the sun was bright, almost poetic. I climbed into my truck, started the engine, and let out a slow, satisfied breath. Not the kind of breath you take after revenge. No, this was relief. Completion. The end of a long, ugly project finally nailed shut. On the drive home, I thought about everything that had led up to this moment. I'll be at the gym late. Every fake smile. Every little red flag I'd ignored because I wanted to believe in peace over confrontation. But peace without honesty is just quiet chaos, and I was done living in that. When I pulled into the driveway, Buddy barked once from the porch, tail wagging. I smiled, stepping out of the truck. Hey boy, I said, scratching his head. Project's done. Time to rest. Inside, the house was still. My bourbon bottle gleamed in the light like a medal. I poured myself a glass, sat in my favorite chair, and raised it toward the window. To gym memberships, I muttered with a grin. They really do teach discipline. And somewhere across town, Clara was probably realizing that no treadmill could outrun the truth. You ever notice how silence after an explosion feels louder than the blast itself? That was the house Saturday morning. No gym bags, no blenders roaring with kale smoothies, no high-pitched phone calls that start with, "Babe, you won't believe what my trainer said." Just stillness, and Buddy snoring like a chainsaw on the couch. It had been 24 hours since the incident at Zen Forge, or as the local gossip mill would soon call it, the day Derek brought the drama. I didn't plan to be a legend, but small towns don't give you much choice. You humiliate one fake fitness guru, and suddenly you're trending on the neighborhood Facebook group. I woke up early, brewed my coffee, and sat on the porch watching the Texas sun climb up like it was late for work. I should have felt vindicated. I'd executed my plan with surgical precision. Logan was out, Clara was exposed, and my peace, my sweet, hard-earned peace, was finally within reach. But instead of victory, what I felt was quiet. Not sad quiet, not angry quiet, just that deep, empty quiet you get after finishing a long project. Like standing in a room you built yourself and realizing it's time to move out. By 8 o'clock, the phone started vibrating. First Russ, then Martha from next door. Then, God help me, even my cousin Dean, who hasn't called me in 3 years unless he needs to borrow tools. Russ went first. "Morning, Walsh," he said, voice rough with amusement. "You made the rounds. My buddy's wife goes to Zen Forge. Said half the class saw your little showdown yesterday. You're a folk hero now." I sighed, sipping my coffee. Great. Every man's dream. To be famous for catching his wife mid-squat scandal. He laughed. "Oh, at least you handled it with style. No yelling, no throwing weights, no viral video of you breaking down." "Give it time," I said dryly. "Someone probably edited a TikTok already." He paused. "How's she holding up?" "Which one?" I asked. "The ex-trainer or the soon-to-be ex-wife?" He chuckled. "You tell me. Let's just say one's unemployed and the other's emotionally overdraft." "That's poetic, man." "You good?" "I'm fine," I said. And I was. Mostly. After hanging up, I spent the morning doing something I hadn't done in weeks, working on the backyard, trimming the hedge, fixing the loose gate hinge, clearing out the flower bed Clara swore she'd landscape professionally, but never touched. It felt good, grounding. You can't control betrayal, but you can control weeds. Around noon, I went inside to grab lunch, and there she was. Clara, standing in the kitchen doorway like she'd been rehearsing an entrance. Dressed casual, jeans, plain shirt, no gym gear, no sunglasses. Her hair was pulled back, and she looked tired. Not the dramatic, manipulative kind of tired. The real kind. "Derek," she said quietly. "Morning," I replied, buttering toast. "You want coffee? I got the good beans." "No, thanks." She hesitated, then sat across from me at the table like we were two coworkers forced into a post-HR meeting. "You really think you've handled this well?" I smiled without looking up. "I think I handled it legally, calmly, and with impeccable timing." "Why? You were expecting fireworks." "You could have just talked to me," she said. I set the knife down. "Clara, you've been lying to my face for months. If I'd talked to you, you'd have gaslighted me so hard I'd start apologizing for building the house we live in." Her eyes flashed. "That's unfair." "So was bringing another man into our marriage," I said. She flinched, then crossed her arms. "You humiliated me in front of everyone." I leaned back, exhaling slowly. "No, you humiliated yourself in front of everyone. I just let the world see the version of you I'd been living with privately." Her eyes filled with tears, and for a second, I almost felt bad. Almost. But guilt's a tricky carpenter. It'll rebuild the walls you just tore down if you let it. She sniffed. "You cut off my cards, my accounts. Because you were spending our money on your fantasy life," I interrupted. "I just shut off the power to the illusion." She stared at me for a long time, probably realizing her old tricks, crying, guilt-tripping, rebranding herself as the victim, weren't going to work here. The silence stretched, heavy and uncomfortable. Then she said softly, "You were never really here, Derek. You were always building something, fixing something. You never just stopped and saw me." I laughed quietly. "Oh, I saw you, Clara. I just didn't recognize who you were pretending to be." She blinked away tears, grabbed her purse, and stood. "I'm staying at my sister's in Dallas for a while." I nodded. "Good. Take the time to reflect. Maybe they've got mirrors that show more than filters." She opened the door, then stopped halfway out. "You think you've won?" "No," I said simply. "I think I've finally stopped losing." The door clicked shut behind her, and the sound was cleaner than I expected. Final. After she left, I sat there for a while, staring at her untouched coffee mug. Then I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. The weight on my chest, months of doubt, anger, second-guessing, finally lifted. I wasn't happy. Not yet. But peace doesn't come in fireworks. It shows up like an old dog, sits beside you, and doesn't leave. Later that day, Martha popped over with her poodle, nosy as ever. "So, I heard about the scene at Zen Forge," she said, eyes wide with delight. "You're practically a celebrity around here. Folks saying you handled it like a gentleman." I smiled faintly. "A gentleman who drinks bourbon at noon, sure." She laughed. "I always told you Clara was too shiny for her own good. You need someone grounded." "Martha, I don't even need someone. I just need silence and my dog." "Well, that's tragic," she said, then whispered conspiratorially. "But if you ever get lonely, my niece just moved to town. Divorced. Teaches Pilates. No trainers involved." I nearly spit out my drink. "Appreciate it, but I'm on a spiritual diet, cutting out drama and women who say energy alignment." That night, I got an email from Mr. Crawford at Zen Forge, short, professional, and unintentionally hilarious. Asterisk Mr. Walsh. "Thank you again for bringing the situation to our attention. We've terminated the trainer's contract and implemented additional ethics training for staff. We also appreciate your discretion in not pursuing further action. Sincerely, C. Crawford, General Manager Asterisk." I poured myself a drink, toasting the email. "Ethics training," I said aloud. "That's cute." Then I scrolled through my contacts and deleted Clara's name from my favorites list. Just her. Not her number, because you can't erase a lesson by pretending it didn't happen, but from favorites. That felt symbolic enough. Sunday came, peaceful and quiet. The kind of day Texas was built for. I grilled ribs, shared scraps with Buddy, and watched football reruns. Halfway through the game, Russ called again. "You doing okay?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "Real okay. Might even call it content." He laughed. "You thinking about dating again?" "Hell no," I said. "Last time I went fishing, I caught a shark that smiled for selfies. He barked out a laugh. Fair. So what's next, Builderman? I looked around at my house. Solid beams, sunlight through clean windows, the faint hum of an AC unit that didn't judge me. Next, I think I'm just gonna live. That sound's been missing for a while. He hummed. Well, for what it's worth, you handled it better than most. Quiet men always scare the loud ones. Yeah, I said with a grin. Turns out peace isn't passive, it's strategic. After the call, I took Buddy for a walk. We passed by Zen Forge, just for the hell of it. Through the glass, I saw new trainers, new faces, same fake plants. The place looked the same, but something about it felt different, emptier. I smiled and whispered to Buddy. Guess even temples of wellness need exorcisms sometimes. He wagged his tail, and we kept walking. Back home, I poured one last bourbon for the night and sat on the porch watching the sun dip below the horizon. The sky burned orange, then purple, then soft gray. It looked like closure. I thought about all the noise, lies, half-truths, polite smiles, and realized I didn't miss any of it. The quiet felt earned now, not lonely. Like something I built, beam by beam. And if anyone asked what happened between me and Clara, I'd tell them the truth. I didn't destroy anything. I just stopped pretending it was worth saving. Then I'd raise my glass and let the silence do the rest. You ever notice how some people treat noise like proof they're alive? Not me. I learned that peace, real, honest, bone-deep peace, doesn't sound like music or laughter or conversation. It sounds like a coffee mug clinking against a table, the creak of an old porch chair, and your dog's soft snore by your boots. It sounds like silence. And man, silence hits different when you've earned it. A week had passed since Clara packed her designer bags and stomped out like she was auditioning for a breakup movie. The first few days, I half expected her to come back for a second performance, storming in, tears ready, asking how I could throw everything away. But she didn't. Instead, she vanished like bad credit. Just a few calls from her sister's number, a text that said, "You'll regret this," and one final message that simply read, "I hope you find peace." Funny thing about that, I already had. The morning after she left, the house felt honest again. The air wasn't perfumed with her eucalyptus sage wellness candles. No fake calm, no curated vibes, no influencer energy. Just me, the smell of brewed coffee, and the faint hum of the ceiling fan. I swear even Buddy, my loyal mutt, looked relieved. He wasn't sneaking out of rooms anymore like he was avoiding tension. He'd just sprawl across the floor, belly up, free as a sinner on Sunday. Every morning, I'd take my coffee outside, sit on the porch swing, and let my mind wander. At first, I kept thinking about her. Not with rage anymore, more like curiosity. Who was she really? The woman who used to laugh at my dad jokes while painting the kitchen? Or the stranger who called me emotionally unavailable because I didn't like posting selfies? Maybe both. Maybe neither. Either way, I'd built my life around her stability, not realizing she'd built hers around distraction. By midweek, word had fully spread through our town. Population 8,000, gossip radius unlimited. I'd gone from that contractor who retired early to that guy who caught his wife cheating with her trainer. Half the men I ran into at the hardware store treated me like I'd won the Super Bowl of self-respect. "Heard you handled it smooth, Derek," one said, shaking my hand like I'd brokered world peace. "Didn't even throw a punch?" "Nope," I told him. "Didn't need to." Truth hits harder. Even the clerk at Joe's Hardware, sweet kid named Travis, asked, "Mr. Walsh, is it true you got that guy fired?" and walked out calm. I grinned. "Son, calm is the best revenge. Makes him wonder what you're planning next." Russ, of course, wouldn't stop calling. "You're trending on the neighborhood Facebook page, man," he said one morning. "Some lady named Kay from Pilates said your composure under betrayal inspired her to dump her boyfriend. You're like a quiet revolution. Tell Kay I charge consulting fees," I deadpanned. But all jokes aside, the quiet was blissful. No more fake smiles. No more gym talk. No more babe, it's not what it looks like. My only routine now was coffee, porch time, and long walks with Buddy. Sometimes, I drive out to the construction site I sold last year, park outside, and watch the crews build the new housing development. There's something poetic about watching new walls rise where old ones used to crumble. One morning, as I was heading back from the post office, my phone buzzed. Email from Mr. Crawford. the ZenForge manager. Subject: Closure of matter. Mr. Walsh, we appreciate your cooperation and professionalism during this delicate situation. Please know that our team has taken corrective action to ensure our facility remains a safe and ethical environment. We wish you continued peace and well-being. Regards, C. Crawford. I chuckled. The man wrote like a politician, trying not to say, "We fired your wife's boyfriend and burned the evidence." I forwarded it to Russ with one line: peace and well-being achieved. By Friday, I'd settled into the kind of rhythm that city folks would pay therapists to feel. Mowed the lawn, fixed the creaky porch step, even cleaned out the garage. Somewhere between organizing my old tools and finding my first ever blueprint sketch, I realized something. I'd been busy building everything except myself. I'd built homes for strangers, repaired relationships, managed chaos, but never just sat still and built peace. So, I decided to treat myself. Drove into town, got a haircut from Eddie, my barber since '89, and he greeted me like I'd survived a war. "Well, if it isn't the Zen master himself," he said, smirking. "Heard you handled betrayal like Clint Eastwood in a Hallmark movie. Just trying to stay centered, Ed." He laughed. "You should write a book. Call it How to Catch a Cheater Without Breaking a Sweat." I'd read that. I grinned. Nah, it'd be a short book. Chapter 1. Trust your gut. Chapter 2. Don't marry cardio addicts. When I got home, Martha waved from across the street. "Clara called me," she shouted. I raised an eyebrow. "Oh yeah? How's Dallas treating her?" Martha leaned on her fence, loving every second of the drama. She said she's taking time to reconnect with her true self. I snorted. Hope her true self likes paying her own bills. Martha laughed so hard her poodle barked. "You're terrible, Derek." "Free man, Martha. I've earned it." That night, I sat out back with a plate of ribs and a glass of bourbon. The stars were bright, one of those rare, perfect Texas nights where the air feels heavy with meaning. I thought about everything that happened and realized I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even hurt. I just understood. Some people chase drama like oxygen because they don't know how to breathe without it. I used to think peace was boring, but turns out it's addictive once you get a taste. Buddy stretched beside me, belly full, snoring away. The quiet hum of the crickets filled the night, and I found myself smiling. The next morning, I got a text from an unknown number. I opened it, expecting spam or maybe a special on roofing materials. Nope, it was Clara. "Hope you're okay. I heard you've been talking to people. Please stop. This isn't how I wanted things to end." I stared at it for a second, then typed back. "I haven't said a word, Clara. Your actions did the talking." I just stopped translating. No reply. Just that little read mark that felt like punctuation on a long, exhausting sentence. That evening, I met Russ at a bar downtown, the kind of place with dim lights and too many TVs showing sports nobody watches. He slid into the booth across from me, 2 beers in hand. "You know, Walsh, I gotta hand it to you. You turned a mess into a masterpiece." I smirked. "Nah, I just cleaned up the job site." He took a sip, studying me. "So what's next? You going to start dating again? Or just live like a monk?" I laughed. "Maybe I'll get a dog for Buddy. A woman's too much maintenance." He chuckled. "Yeah, but a dog won't double your credit card bills." We drank in silence for a while, comfortable and unhurried. Russ clinked his bottle against mine and said, "You know what I envy about you, man? You got closure without chaos. That's rare." I shrugged. "You don't get peace by chasing it. You build it, brick by brick, and protect it like your last tool set." "Preach, brother," he said, raising his beer. When I got home that night, the house was dark but not lonely. I fed Buddy, brushed my teeth, and climbed into bed that didn't smell like eucalyptus for once. I stared at the ceiling fan, the steady rhythm of its blades whispering through the room. That's when it hit me. This quiet wasn't emptiness. It was space. Space to think, to rebuild, to breathe. I checked my phone one last time before sleeping. No messages. No drama. Just that peaceful nothingness that had once terrified me. Now it was my favorite sound. As I drifted off, I thought about how far I'd come. From the man who ignored his gut to the one who trusted it enough to tear down his own walls and start over. Turns out, silence really is the best soundtrack. Because when it's quiet enough, you can finally hear yourself again. A week after Clara left, I finally understood what peace actually looks like. It isn't palm trees, meditation apps, or $1,000 retreat where someone named Sage tells you to manifest better energy. It's simpler. It's a clean kitchen table. It's a dog that naps through thunderstorms. It's not having to brace yourself when your phone buzzes. I didn't realize how heavy that noise was until it disappeared. The house didn't feel empty anymore. It felt mine. Every wall, every piece of wood I'd cut and nailed years ago, every beam I'd measured twice before setting in place, still standing, still solid. Clara used to call this place too practical. I call it proof I build things to last, even if people don't. That Monday morning, I woke up at 6 like always, brewed my coffee, and stepped onto the porch to watch the sunrise over the pecan trees. Buddy padded out beside me, tail wagging lazily. The air smelled like dew and fresh grass, peace with a touch of humidity. My phone buzzed once on the table. Not Clara this time, thank God, but a message from Russ. Fishing this weekend. You, me, 2 coolers, 0 drama. I smiled and texted back. Count me in. Bring the bourbon, not the advice. Then I pocketed my phone and just sat. For once, I didn't feel like something was missing. I wasn't scanning the yard for her car or wondering which excuse she'd use that day. I was just there, in the moment, breathing. You don't realize how many years you spend living half present until you finally stop. That day, I decided to volunteer at the Veteran Center in town. Not out of guilt, just time. I'd spent so long building a life around one person that I forgot there's a world full of folks who actually appreciate loyalty. So, I drove down to the community center, where a hand-painted sign said, Coffee, Cards, Company. Inside were a handful of older vets, guys who'd seen real battles, not the emotional kind I'd been whining about. A grizzled Marine named Charlie looked up from his domino game and said, You new here or lost? Maybe both, I said, smiling. They laughed, handed me a chair, and just like that, I was part of something again. No small talk about vibes. No lectures about communication styles. Just good men with scarred knuckles and solid handshakes, teaching me how to play dominoes and telling stories that put my so-called problems in perspective. One of them, an old Army sergeant named Bill, leaned over mid-game and said, You married? I said. He nodded knowingly. That explains why you play so cautious. You'll loosen up after the settlement. I nearly spit my coffee laughing. After the game, Bill clapped me on the shoulder. You'll be fine, son. Some things you lose are just space you get back. That line stuck with me, because he was right. I hadn't lost Clara. I'd regained all the space she took up pretending to be someone she wasn't. When I got home that evening, the sun was sliding low and golden through the living room window. I poured a bourbon, opened the windows, and let the breeze roll through the house. It didn't smell like eucalyptus anymore. It smelled like oak and air and something real. My phone buzzed again, unknown number. I almost ignored it, but curiosity won. Derek. The voice was familiar. Clara. I sighed. You know, I was just enjoying the sound of nothing. I just wanted to talk, she said softly. No drama. Just closure. I leaned back in my chair. Closure's free, Clara. You don't have to call for it. I didn't cheat on you because I didn't love you, she said, voice shaking. I just lost myself somewhere. That's convenient, I said, swirling the bourbon. You lose yourself, and I lose everything else. She was quiet for a moment. I'm sorry. I believed her, in a distant way. Maybe she was sorry. But apologies don't patch the beams once they've split. They just sit there like nails on a floorboard, reminders you can't step in the same spot again. Clara, I said finally, I don't hate you. Hate takes energy. I'm saving mine for better things. Are you happy? She asked. I looked out the window, at the soft Texas sunset melting into the trees. Happier than I've been in years. She sniffled. I'm glad. Really? Good, I said gently. Now go build something of your own. Just remember to measure before you start cutting. She laughed weakly, recognizing my old line, and then the call ended. No yelling, no tears, just the quiet click of 2 people officially done. That night, I slept like a man who didn't owe anyone an explanation. Over the next few weeks, I kept busy. Helped out at the Veteran Center twice a week, started restoring an old Ford truck I'd kept in storage, even joined a woodworking club downtown. Turns out there's something holy about carving a block of walnut into something useful. It's like meditation for men who hate talking about feelings. Martha dropped by one afternoon with her infamous peach pie. You look good, she said, setting it on the counter. Less haunted. Guess I stopped renting my piece out to liars, I said. She grinned. That'll do it. We ate pie on the porch while Buddy chased butterflies in the yard. She told me the latest town gossip, that Zen Forge had rebranded under new management, and Mr. Crawford sent out an apology email to all members. Apparently, Logan Pierce moved to Houston to start over. I raised my glass and toasted the irony. May he find a treadmill sturdy enough to outrun his stupidity. Martha laughed so hard, she almost dropped her plate. That night, I went through some old photos. Me and Clara on vacation. Our first Christmas, the day we moved into this house. For the first time, I didn't feel bitterness. Just acceptance. Not every blueprint leads to a dream home. Some are meant to collapse so you can learn how to rebuild stronger. I slid the photos back into the drawer and picked up my sketch pad. Drew a rough plan for a workshop out back. Nothing fancy, just a place to make things with my hands again. The kind of space where sawdust could settle instead of resentment. When I told Russ about it later, he said, "You really can't sit still, can you?" "Nope," I said. "But this time, I'm building for me." He nodded, grinning. Call it what it is then, therapy with a nail gun. He wasn't wrong. By the end of that month, I had a solid frame built. 4 sturdy walls, 1 big workbench, a skylight that poured sunlight right where I planned to set my chair. The first day I stepped inside, the smell of fresh pine filled the air, and I felt something I hadn't in a long time. Pride without pain. I hung a small sign above the door that said, "Blueprint for Peace." Not because I was trying to be poetic, but because it fit. Every screw, every board, every cut represented a step away from chaos. And for once, the man staring back at me in the reflection of that skylight window looked steady. One Saturday, as I sanded down a plank, Russ stopped by with a 6-pack. "Damn," he said, looking around. "You really built this fast." "Didn't need blueprints," I said. I knew what peace looked like this time. He cracked a beer, nodded approvingly. "You think you'll ever let someone else in again?" I thought about it for a moment, wiping my hands on a rag. Maybe, if it happens naturally. But next time, I'm not building on shared property. My piece comes deeded in my name only. He laughed. "You sound like a philosopher with a tool belt. Better than a fool with a checkbook," I said. As evening settled, I sat outside the workshop, watching the sun dip low. The sound of cicadas filled the air, loud, but not intrusive. That's the thing about real peace. It doesn't demand silence, it just asks for honesty. Buddy curled up beside me, his fur warm against my leg. I reached down, scratched his ear, and whispered, "We did good, bud." He wagged his tail like he understood. Maybe he did. Dogs always seem to know when the storms finally passed. I finished my drink, leaned back, and looked out across the open field behind the house. I used to think love was the foundation for everything. Now I know it's integrity. Love without integrity is just decoration, pretty for a while, but guaranteed to peel. So, if anyone ever asks me what happened between me and Clara, I'll tell them the truth with a smile. My car broke down, but my self-respect got a full-body upgrade. And I'll mean it. Then I'll raise a glass, listen to the quiet hum of my new workshop, and let the silence play me out. Because silence, I've learned, really is the best soundtrack for a man who finally rebuilt himself right.